How's it going, folks? I'm Matt, and this is Photosynthetic, and welcome to another episode of Meet the Industry. Today, we've got Tyler Platt from Grassroots Fabric Pots here to talk about the amazing products that they have and something that I use in my garden. Tyler, thanks for stopping by.
Hey, Matt, thank you so much for having me on here today. You got some great information you put out, so I'm so glad to be here and to contribute to it, and have Grassroots here to help out the community is what we're here for.
And the community absolutely loves your products. And I wanted to dig deep. I've talked to a few people on the web and whatnot here and there. We've got a list of questions to go through, and odds are we'll probably have a few things that we deviate from. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Guys, if you don't like the ads that you see on these videos, by all means, use an ad blocker. But if you do want to support the show, head on over to Patreon. Link below. You can support me in that way. And we don't talk about any of the other gardening products, well, I should say gardening things that I do on my channel, specifically on Meet the Industry, but please note that the products that we do discuss are completely applicable to that style of gardening. That being said, Tyler, let's talk about some Grassroots Fabric Pots. What's the background? Oh, sorry. What's the background behind Grassroots? How did they get started? Has it always been just making these large fabric beds?
No, we're an industrial sewing company at our heart. We've been making industrial products with our sewing machines for a long time. There's other things we can use with these fabrics as well. We make a line of products for the construction industry with some diversion tubes. We make a replacement for the straw wattle that can be driven over with heavy equipment and still pop up and do its job for heavy traffic areas. So we're pretty diverse as a company, and we know what is strength and what works and what is industrial. And we just literally kind of had some people who came out of the mountains, and we're right here in Sacramento, and we're kind of not the mecca of growing, but we're close to the mecca of growing. And there's a lot of people in the gold country in the surrounding area that do some very large outdoor cultivation. And they came to us and said, I didn't like the containers I can buy at the grocery store, and I didn't like the price they were charging me. I think things could be a lot better. I want something American made. So we got on the case, and after a few years, it was, I believe, messing around with this stuff since 2005. I walked in the door to Grassroots in 2015 to buy a couple of containers. And at that time, it was all black fabric. We didn't have any tan fabric. I got into a great conversation with the owner, Rich, who was very interested in cannabis cultivation, very interested in cultivation. And we just went down the pathway of what's successful with us. And why did I want a 200-gallon pot? Why did I want that much soil? Why didn't I want 4 45-gallon pots? And what was the gist of that? And we went into germinating seeds and starting in the beginning of the year and all that great stuff. So I got into a great conversation with Rich, and I ended up applying for a job there as a sales associate, because fortunately their sales associate had just walked off the job. So just luckily there's a position for me to slide into, and I hated my current job at AT&T selling cell phones in a retail situation. So went from people yelling at me about their text messages not working to answering the phone for gardeners who are building their dream garden, and it was honestly like one of the most went from a depressing situation to just people like, hey, I got money to build this garden, and we're going to grow all these amazing vegetables and do all this great cultivation in these areas and have all these dreams that I'm helping them build. And they tell me about this farm that they've drewn on this big giant thing and how my products fit into certain parts of that. So that definitely created my passion and having everything different from every day, and then we got really deep into the custom products, and that's how we got into the living soil liner. That's how we got into the long raised beds that we've done up to 120 feet long now and 8 foot wide. So we don't like doing the 8 foot wide ones. They're hard to move around. We don't like doing anything honestly wider than 4 or 5 feet, but we're building your dreams. So, if you're willing to work with our lead times and stuff like that, and, we're willing to work with you. And that's where the fun stuff came in. And now we're gotten to the point where, our basic 4x4 and 4x8 products are so busy that, I think right now our 4x8s are backstocked 500 pieces because companies like Build a Soil and Sustainable Village are constantly placing orders to make sure they're never out of stock. and it's they freak out if they're out of stock of our product because it's in such a demand. So if you ever can't find anything from us, you're going to reach out to our distributors, Black Swallow Living Soils in Ontario. Um, uh, and they've got some amazing stuff. You should really be leaning on Black Swallow for a lot of their information and their guidance and their KISS organic soil mixes that they've done. And honestly, I wouldn't be doing anything in Canada without Black Swallow Living Soils. I've seen a lot of the commercial side by sides and other side by sides with some of the other stuff. Not to say they don't have anything great to offer, but if you are going through something that's scientifically backed, and you want to produce something that's going to blow somebody away, you want to use as much science as possible. So, if you're in the States, there's some great soil sources to go through, and that depends on where you're at. So give us a call. We're going to point you to who we know is best in your area, because freight and shipping the soil is the most expensive thing.
Totally.
So yeah, so wherever you're at and you're in the realm of things, you can go onto our website and fill out a job form and say, hey, I'm going to buy this and that, and I'm here in this area. What would you suggest I do? And what do you see working best? Because, honestly, if you're on the East Coast and you're in New York or Ontario, you might not need a living soil container outdoors because of the humidity levels. Compared to somebody who's in California or Vancouver, that has super dry conditions, and this living soil liner can make it to where you go 2 days, 4 days without watering your plants outdoors. So somebody who's in a situation who they've got a full-time job and they're doing outdoor cultivation once a year, that's a major difference. Are you going out to water your plants every day at 6 a.m. before you go out to leave for your 8-hour job a day or 12-hour job a day thing or not? It's a major thing for some people. So
Certainly. And it's good that you guys are willing to talk to people to specialize in understanding their areas and what's going to work best. That's a great level of customer service, and it's something we certainly appreciate. Let's talk about the manufacturing process now. The team, what it's like to work there. How do you guys make the fabric pots?
Well, most of our conversations revolve around what's going to happen for lunch and what we're eating and food.
The important stuff.
The important stuff, right? Food gotta be fed. We're very we have a monthly luncheon for our employees. We feel it's very important for us to break bread together and get on a level where anybody can speak up and talk about a concern, which is very important. It doesn't matter if you're just started working from us and you're folding pots in the corner, and you're at the lowest pay compared to somebody who's worked for Grassroots for over 8 years and has made every product we have and touched it the whole time. Everybody's got an important say. So the fabric, just to make it simple, was custom made for Grassroots in the state of Georgia. We just had our production manager out there in Georgia seeing the manufacturing process and watching how they spec out our fabric so we can get the amount of drainage we want, and importantly, the thickness that we want. And the important thing you're going to see in between our fabric and other fabrics is there's a very little difference in between the outside of the container and the inside of the container. Other fabrics, it's hard on the outside, fluffy on the inside, and they promote that as we're grabbing the roots and we're doing air pruning. It's really just how the machine is making the fabric. It's heat setting it on one side, not heat setting it on the other. It's a cheaper way of making the fabric. So we heat set our fabric on both sides as it goes through. That makes it tensile strength a lot stronger. Our fabric can hold up about 300 pounds per square inch. So as far as an inch goes, if you're going to do a tensile strength to pull it out, about 300 pounds of pressure. So that's dramatically stronger than a lot of the other fabrics that are on the market. And we're pretty proud that our fabric manufacturer has said that other people have contacted us and asked to buy the fabric, and we've denied them because we have an exclusive deal to just make it for you, because we buy a certain amount of fabric and we guarantee it. And honestly, our owner is very good at making deals and has been in the fabric business for a very, very long time, and has known these people, and they're helping us out and we're helping them out. So our fabric is exclusively made for Grassroots. We do not sell it in bulk. You cannot just roll up to us and buy fabric. The only way you're going to get it from us is if you dumpster dive our scraps. So have fun with that. But we can't. It's sometimes there's a shortage of fabric, so we need this stuff. We can't just sell it to people who are doing random things. So the manufacturing process is, if we're going to make, for a company in Michigan, they requested 25 4-foot by 90-foot raised beds. We're going to lay out all of the bottom pieces for those beds in a lay where the fabric's this thick, and we're going to cut it all, and that ensures certain lengths of certain things, and we're going to do everything we can to bulk manufacture those things And that's, ways of making quality control in the end a lot easier, to make sure that we can put out 2,500-foot raised beds within an inch of what the customer expects. These products are going to be in place for possibly well over 10 years. I have some of these farms that are stewarding their soils in ways that they say are going to be passed on to their children. So they don't ever look at dissipating the soil and discarding it. If you talked about discarding soil on their farm, they would talk about where they're going to discard you in the soil to benefit their soil. That's part of the conversation they would have.
Yeah.
So, these people are very passionate about passing on these systems to their future, to benefit them. So that's why we make the highest quality products we possibly can, so it stays there in the field for as long as physically possible. I foresee some of these 100-foot raised beds later on down the road of just needing some PVC pipes replaced. And as long as they don't bring the tractor down the row and scrape the whole side of it and just rip my bed in half. That's happened before. We had somebody who pulled a bobcat down one of the rows and just ripped it on both sides.
Oh, man.
We had to replace 200-foot raised beds, and I think that guy works at 7-Eleven now. So
I would assume, yeah, that's a pretty big oops. So speaking about the fabric itself, you guys used to do the black. We touched on that a little bit earlier. And now you're on the tan fabric. Was there a reason why? Was the black too hot, or was this a manufacturing thing?
Yeah. If you go onto our YouTube, there's a video we did with Eric Branstad from Greenhouse Advisory Group. Eric Branstad, a long time ago, was the earliest ones to go into a greenhouse with a thermal temperature gun, like you would use in a restaurant, just to see what the temperature of things are. And he showed us, if you have black ground cover in a greenhouse and a black fabric pot, what is the leaf surface temperature of that plant? And we were showing, or even the leaf surface or the temperature of these certain items in the greenhouse. And if you change that black ground cover and black container to a white ground cover and tan container, we can get those ambient temperatures into 70, 80 degrees. Compared to a black ground cover and a black pot, we were upwards of 130, 140 degrees.
Wow, that's quite the difference. And
to the point to where the dog didn't want to walk in there because it was too hot for their feet.
No doubt.
So that was where we were pointed out the major differences in between black and tan fabric. So since we've given the option of black or tan, 5 years later, we're at the point where we're hardly ordering the black fabric, and we've gotten to the point to where we've ordered too much of it and it's not selling and it's sitting on the shelves, and we're probably never going to order black fabric again. That's just how it goes. So we don't make black containers any longer. We only make them as custom, and we will be not making anything black in the future once the black fabric is gone, because it really just doesn't have an ultimate place in the industry, we feel.
Evolution of design.
We're based it all off of sales and what the customers ask, and that goes on all of our pot sizes, bed sizes, and everything like that. We just try to do as much as we can in all those different areas. And then later on down the road, every year we look at what doesn't sell and what we can eliminate from that list. And so then that allows us to focus on the products that are most heavily demanded.
Lean manufacturing, focus on what's important. Taking the bed outside and going to get it set up on the ground. Now, do I want to go just direct on the ground, maybe a layer of sand or something in between? And what about indoors?
It's outdoors. It's very important to do a percolation test on your soil. I'd urge people to Google a percolation test on your soil. It's where you dig a hole in the soil and you saturate it with water, and then you come back 24 hours and you fill that hole with water completely, and you time how long it takes for that hole to drain. Now, in that percolation test on Google, it'll tell you what's acceptable for those time frames. Too fast of drainage means you're going to have to feed a lot more. Too slow of drainage means you're going to get into anaerobic conditions and bad microbes and then fusarium, all of those horrible things. So you got to see what's going on below the container. Now, a lot of people obviously are just going to plop this down onto some grass, which is great because you should have a couple inches of drainage. That's great. We all just want a couple inches of drainage below the bed. This goes the same for indoor and outdoor. If you throw this raised bed on concrete on a flat, solid surface, that water column has to go like this. Now, in some of the diagrams we have behind me, that living soil liner is set up to replicate native soil. Native soil dries from the sun drying the soil surface, which is also your light, your grow light, or the sun, and drying that soil to dry top down naturally. So we want to promote that natural drainage out. So I think the best setup for these raised beds indoor would be a drain tray. Um, Filled with pumice rock or with hydrotin, at least an inch layer. And then that would allow the most natural drainage possible compared to just setting the bed on a plastic drain tray. Yes, it's got those little channels for drainage, but it's got large flat areas that are going to disturb the soil from draining as naturally as physically possible. But we're in the process of updating our website to show how these containers should be best laid out and laid down in these situations. Honestly, it's kind of like an iceberg of information, and we have to bring the most important stuff up first to allow those people to tunnel down into those rabbit holes as they need it. We're a very small company. We've got 21 employees now, and normally we have 19. We've expanded a little bit to have more people to help us fold the containers and get them out the door. We're looking for more shipping people. We're looking for more people in the warehouse. So if you're in the Sacramento area and you want to be a part of the Grassroots team, please come into our office and fill out an application or come stop by. We would love to have more cannabis community members or veterans. We've got quite a few veterans here in the Grassroots facility. We're actually veteran ran by multiple points in the industry, in the organization by our management. Um, and Grassroots is also family owned by a husband and wife team that have veto power over themselves. So if one doesn't like what's going on, it stops right there in the road and we continue on. So it's a great organization, and we have a snack bar. I love the snack bar.
There you go. All important, keeping well fed. Now, and just to touch back, I did have that as a bit of a leading question. If you guys do want to see what the fabric beds look like on the raised pot or on the Hydroton pebbles, check out some of my other videos, because that's how I've got it set up, based on Tyler's advice, and zero issues. Absolutely love it. Fantastic system. Now, seasonal maintenance. If I've got these things outside, do I need to do anything to prep them up for winter? If I live in a crappy cold area like I live in here, so
I would heavily promote people to use these raised beds in other forms in the off season as well. A lot of the leading people in our industry that are pushing these, systems forward are growing other stuff with their cannabis at the same time, or when they're not using their soil. So me, I love garlic. Me, I love potatoes. I love those little Yukon Gold little red potatoes. Like, we need to be using our soil when we're not using it. So do a winter crop. You do something. I know it's hard for some areas because you're going to have a freeze and you can't grow anything. Well, there's some things that you can plant in November after you've harvested your cannabis that are going to pop up in spring that you can harvest well before you've got to go into your cannabis crop, which, most people aren't going to plant serious outdoor until, if you're clone, depending on where you're at, anywhere from May to as late as July. Based off of all my soil testing and amending that I've done, the science that I have, if I plant in early July, my plants are growing into my greenhouse. I can't do that. I've got to plant later in the year because my soil now, after 4 years of building, is getting so progressive that in some beds, I don't add any nitrogen. I can't add any nitrogen because it would be over the nitrogen levels that it needs based off my soil testing. So, I just had such great results by applying science. I can't preach it enough, and then, that's converted to SAP testing, obviously, mainly use that now and suggest that as well. But yeah, sorry, just got way off.
It's all good, man. It's all good. It's an interesting subject. But for winter months and stuff, I shouldn't be concerned about taking out the PVC, or there's no special treatments that I need to do to make sure that the bed's not going to encounter issues during winter months.
No, not really at all. I think the only thing you're going to find, and when you come back, things come to surface in the spring, and you're clearing out that bed, make sure you have a mulch layer back on there. I really like using a combination of wood chips. If you can find them, apple wood chips are the best, rice hulls, and straw. Those three items mixed together in a wheelbarrow, soaked in water, and then applied to the soil surface, no thicker than an inch. We do not want to suffocate the soil. Microbes have to have oxygen to function.
Yes.
So it's very important to set this thing forward. And in my mind, I'm going to harvest in October, take a break for a little bit. November rolls around, plant your winter crop, make sure you got a mulch layer on there, and it's going to do its thing all through winter. You're going to see some beautiful, garlic spears, coming up through there first thing in the spring. And then they'll also give you some chances to do some more microbial inoculations in the winter to keep things jumping and moving. Um, and then when you're harvesting your garlic would be a great time to pull a soil sample, take a water sample from your irrigation system and send them out to the lab to do a saturated paste test so we can combine those in the laboratory and know what's available to the plant. And then they can base your amendments off of what the plants have removed, because the plants never remove everything from the soil. And we have to use soil chemistry to figure that out.
Yeah, and we chatted about this quite a bit when I had you on Meet the Grower. Was you're a big fan of doing all the testing and putting the science at it. And guys, if you haven't seen that episode where Tyler and I just chat growing specifically, fantastic. I'll put a link up here on the screen. Now, going to some questions that I've had from people out in the field or different social media sites. Aside from the added expense of shipping the PVC pipe itself, that you can typically get in most hardware stores, is there a reason that you only ship the fittings and not the pipe itself? Just cost?
We tried in the beginning 3 years ago to do just the pipes with the beds because we thought that's just the only way it would go. And 95% of farmers out there, we were mainly doing this local here for outdoor growers. I've got plenty of PVC, or I've got a portion of it and I've got it local to me. I want to buy it here. I can get it cheaper here. It's cheaper for me to do it, because if we're going to cut the PVC pipe for you, you've got to factor in our labor costs here in California. And then you've got to factor in the cost of shipping a stick that's an inch wide by 48 inches long. So for a 4x4 bed, it takes up a lot of linear space. Eventually I'd love to see us in a box, where we can, have the PVC pipe pre-cut as an option. So you get the pipe, the bed, the fittings, and everything. Ultimately, I think it's going to be other retailers like Black Swallow Living Soil that provides the pipe for you and gives you an option to have it pre-cut through them. They're doing that on a case-per-case basis there for customers in Canada because, hey, maybe you've got a vehicle you can't carry 20-foot sticks or 10-foot sticks. And our retailers are doing that for people locally. And soon you will see us, we have a goal of getting into large box stores and being available in large areas that, like, say, a Home Depot or a Lowe's, to where you walk in and say, hey, a living soil raised bed from Grassroots Fabric Pots. You grab the soil, let me grab the pipes, I'll grab the putter over here too, and a hot dog outside from the stand, and we're off building it out,
And well fed with that hot dog, absolutely.
All about food, man.
I hear you. Now, the fittings themselves, Tyler, if I have an incident, I crack a fitting, can I call you guys up, order replacement parts?
Yeah, we've got a lot of fittings on hand here. We order them from a company in Florida that makes them for us. They're furniture grade fittings, which are stronger than irrigation fittings. It's very difficult to find these fittings in any hardware stores because they're very uncommonly used, especially in Canada, EU, UK. It's just completely a foreign item out there. So we will supply all the fittings that you need. You can buy extra fittings from us. Sustainable Village has a lot of fittings. Build a Soil has a lot of fittings. Same thing with Black Swallow. They order extra fittings from us because other people want to shape this thing like an erector set and make a greenhouse out of it outdoors, or they want to do a double trellis, or they want it to go out and up and in, whatever your dreams are.
And, I've had a few ideas myself just with some of those fittings for, like you say, a double trellis system. Now, there's a few different designs available, from the line beds to the different sizes of pots. But what products do people like the most, and why?
Definitely the 30-gallon living soil pots, the 4x8s and the 4x4s, and a lot of that goes along with what else is available to do these build outs, because you got to imagine your lights are in a 4x4, 5x5 pattern. So you're going to want to fill it out with a 4x4 or 5x5 situation. We're really heavily trying to promote using a smaller bed and a bigger tent, as in a 3x3 bed and a 4x4 tent, or a 3x6 and a 4x8, because it gives you the ability to move around and get in there, and airflow and moving the microclimates from the bottom to the top very important to be constantly circulating the air in these tents. You can use fans to move it upwards and do other things like that. If you can break that microclimate, you're also going to break the ability to have infections or issues throughout there as well. And the very most important thing is if you know what you're doing and you're using soil testing and you're getting the minerals in there, because that's the main problem we find in living soils, people lacking the right minerals and having a balanced soil. You can get to a balanced soil, you're going to have a canopy that dramatically outgrows the size of the bed. So in a 3x3 bed, you should be able to easily fill out a 4x4 tent and having buds touching every corner. We've seen this in multiple cases, and you're going to see that as well with Build a Soil. They're doing a cool 10x10 deal right now on YouTube where you can see their
I've been watching every one of those episodes, and it's getting to the point where I don't even need to talk about growing anymore. I can just refer people over to Jeremy and his methods. That guy's on fire, man.
Yeah,
I need to get him on the show. So,
oh yeah.
Let's say I don't have access to Grassroots Fabric Pots. Let's say I've got viewers over in South Africa, for example. Are there any tips, tricks, techniques that you could recommend to get similar performance in just an off-the-shelf product?
Oh, definitely. We found the living soil liner products in containers by a grower that was having so many problems with normal fabric pots and normal raised beds, and just decided we've got to replicate native soil. So we're very open about the fact that we did not figure out this science ourselves. We're promoting stuff that other people have discovered that's awesome.
Cool.
So anybody using a normal fabric pot, I don't care what size it is, if it's just straight fabric on the sides, go get some plastic wrap from the kitchen or some plastic wrap from a shipping whatever, and wrap that container and leave yourself an air gap at the bottom. You can kind of see here, with our diagram of what we have in the background there.
Let me explain this. So quick jump back into the video, guys, as we did some adjustments on the camera but Tyler was talking about the living soil liner and what you'd want to do specifically for if you didn't have one.
Yeah, so specifically, I would grab some plastic wrap or saran wrap and wrap the outside of the container, and leave yourself a little gap at the bottom for drainage. I'm actually experimenting with full living soil liner raised beds in my greenhouse based off of a soil that I'm using that is very high draining. And that liner all the way sidewall is helping maintain the moisture levels I need in that soil that I got specifically. That comes into, whenever we do something custom for a customer, we're willing to do that. But if you were just wrap the container with saran wrap on the outside, we've had people that have had mushrooms pop up in 24 hours. So that tells you the biology was there. It just did not have the right conditions where it could thrive and really colonize quickly as it should. So I would urge anybody to, go ahead and wrap your container with plastic and get the best out of it that you can. I've got people that are putting the plastic on the inside of the containers like our product. Kind of a game changer, because now the roots can grow all the way to the edge, start circling down, and then hit normal fabric and air proof. So we're getting a better utilization of the container as a whole. We've had people say crazy things like, I get the same yields out of a 45-gallon living soil pot as I did out of a normal 65-gallon. And that would kind of make sense because the root growth is the same because it can grow all the way to the edge. So yeah.
Yeah, you're not getting that deeper air pruning. So yeah, I mean, like you can see on the image behind Tyler there, just wrap that pot with plastic, leave a little bit of gap at the bottom for that proper drainage, and you would get some better performance. But of course, if you can, get those Grassroots Fabric Pots anyway, because you're getting the better sewing, the more durability. You guys do some stuff with the seams on the bottom as well, don't you?
Yeah, it's very important that our stitches dry out in between watering. So, if the stitches is on the inside of the container structurally, it's just sitting in there rotting, and microbes are very good at consuming things. I don't care how synthetic they just can chew up and eat up stuff. So the outside seam of our container is on the outside, so it gets a chance to dry out in between watering cycles, which is very important. On top of that, we use a 5-thread dual needle safety stitch. So there's an outer stitch and then there's an inner stitch to really secure things. So we've done a lot of fun stuff, like put the heaviest, biggest employee we have in a container and pick it up and lift it up. And it's amazing. We're even making some custom products for a customer that's got a device that goes on the end of a tractor where you can pick up a whole bunch of pot handles on them and move them around and place them. So
Oh, neat.
there's some cool stuff we're working on, and he specifically uses our pots because when we stitch a handle into it, which is only custom, it takes a really long time to do handles because we want them to last, and they don't rip, and they can be picked up and moved and replaced year after year, which is important.
Let's talk about the custom process. If I would like to get something built from you guys, how do I start? What are lead times like? And, is there any sort of general things that we wanted to avoid in the design?
Yeah, we can't make things any smaller than an inch. So we don't want to do 2.75 inches. We want to round it up to the nearest inch as possible. Right now, we have a minimum order of $500. So you need to be ordering $500 worth of product from us to make something custom. Um, in the slow season, if there is one, we will commonly disregard that $500 minimum and kind of do anything for anybody. I mean, our minimum is like we won't make a raised bed for less than $48. Like that's like the minimum. I don't care what size you want it. So in the off season, if you have a really small project you want to do, and the off season would be like July through January. Those are typically our slowest time of the year. That's when we're most likely to say, hey, we're slow and the lead times are a little bit faster and it's not a big burden on us to make this small container because we have to put a lot of effort and engineering into making sure you get exactly what you want. So $500 minimum, give us exact sizes down to the inch, nothing smaller. We pretty much have a stock size that works for almost any configuration. The 2x4 beds we're probably going to end up discontinuing because they're not moving because you could just use two 30-gallon pots or two 45-gallon pots, and it's way cheaper. But some people want that soil to be as big as possible and have it for a long time. So, that's where the custom will come in the off seasons.
Oh, very good, very good. Let's talk big picture. And when I say big picture, I'm talking the big picture. How does Grassroots stay environmentally minded and sustainable?
It's very important that when we're making products that we stay as efficient as possible to have as little waste as possible, so that eliminates what we're putting into the landfills as a whole. We look into putting the highest quality materials into our products so they last as physically long as possible. And honestly, if you come to me saying you want 5,000 5-gallon pots, you're probably going to turn and burn and throw those away in one use. And honestly, I'm probably going to not bid it very aggressively at all because I don't want to be a part of something that's just going to end up in the landfill.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather sell somebody a whole bunch of 30-gallon pots that's going to use them for the next 10, 20 years. That's sustainable to me. That makes sense to me. 5 years of life, you've gotten your money out of the product and it's paying you back twofold. And you're doing great at that point. So if you need to replace something, that's fine. I doubt it. The old smart pots with the stitching on the inside, people say would last for 8+ years. So now we've got a higher grade fabric. We've got marine bonded stitching, threading that's used for life jackets, water marine products. We're appropriately fitting these materials to the right situation. So we could get much longer life out of these things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think that's the thing because you are creating a place where you can have good organic growth, these larger pots, living soil, creating the type of environment that we should be growing in. Because the bonus about living soil, folks, is if you're doing it and doing it right, you're sequestering carbon down into that soil, which is just great for the environment to begin with. Tyler, last question. Anything new for the 2020 season? And aside from the places that we've talked about, Sustainable Village, Black Swallow, and you guys direct, anywhere else that we can find the Grassroots Fabric Pot products?
Big things coming in 2021. Obviously, we've got a 25% discount for the concentrated biology products that are absolutely amazing. And that also goes if you're just a heavy compost tea brewing person. You're really going to want to play with our microbe foods that we have, our M food, our seafood, our bloom. We've got very diverse microbiology foods to feed your native microorganisms. And obviously, we have very diverse microbes to blast that out. Everything's at 25% off right now because it's our first year carrying those products. So we're going to heavily discount them, not take any profit ourselves this year, and just kind of get those products out to customers. Right now, we are only in America with those products. We're not able to service the Canadian market yet because of the organic registration process that is required for Canadian products to be sold is lengthy and is something that we will be working on. We will be very heavily in the Canadian market, hopefully in the 2022 season, we hope. I've said that before. I said I thought we'd already be there by now, but unfortunately, it takes a lot longer than we imagined. So yeah.
Very cool.
And the second part of your question was,
where can we find Grassroots Fabric Pots other than your website, Sustainable Village, and Black Swallow?
I'd say the best thing to do is call us. Tell us where you're at. We're going to kind of look in our system to see what's available near you, whether you're on the East Coast, whether you're on the West Coast. Are you in Vancouver or are you in the Ontario area? Obviously Black Swallow is going to be a close one to you there, but it's a case by case basis and case by case on the product too, of where it's at and what the lead times are. So give us a holler, reach out to us, DM us. And we're really happy to try to just point you in the easiest way possible as far as these products, whether it's us or whether it's one of our distributors.
Bring that customer service. And that's one of the best things about dealing with you guys. And folks, Tyler and I have been talking. He wants to give away some of these absolutely fantastic Grassroots Fabric Pot products. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick 3 winners. North America, you'll have a chance to win a 3x3 or a 2x4 bed, whichever one you would like, just one of them, of course. But in addition to that, for our watchers, viewers down in America, down in the US of A, we're also going to give away 3 sets of, it was the basic microbe product and then the food you wanted to do too, wasn't it, Tyler?
Yep. So the 2.5 gallon jug of Metagrow ST, which is about 10 times more concentrated than any product on the market. So literally, you would need 100 gallons of any other product to equal 1 gallon of our product in its concentration as far as microbial growth goes. But on top of that, we're giving you the food that we use to manufacture and cultivate and culture these microbes. So we're going a lot further than the other microbial company because we're trying to allow you to continually feed and keep that colony maintained and give that colony of microbes a chance to just really blossom.
That's just awesome, and give that great environment that the plants need to thrive in. So, folks, we'll put the information that you need to know to enter below, and that stuff will draw when that stuff draws, because I'm not exactly sure when this is going live. With that being said, Tyler, totally appreciate having you on today, guys. And if you guys didn't see the episode last week, Tyler, David Olson, and I, we talked specifically about that concentrated biology product and what a fantastic addition it would be to your garden. That being said, Tyler, I'll let you get back at it because I'm sure you got a ton of things to do manufacturing that fantastic product. Thank you so much for stopping by, sir.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time you've given us here today. Thank you.
Absolutely. And guys, check out my garden if you want to see the Grassroots Fabric Pots in action. Otherwise, I'm Matt and this is Photosynthetic. We out.